Hey, good morning, everybody. Today we're doing a class. It's a political science class. Um, and it's based upon something that's been going around for quite a while in the media and in the presidency. And so it's something that I think we should discuss just what the process is, but it's the process of impeachment of anyone in office. I think a lot of people, it gets misconstrued that it could just be the president that can get impeached, and actually anyone really can, depending on what they do or don't do. So today I figure we should discuss this, just the process itself, how it goes, so that you can see or understand the process better. I didn't understand it that well myself, and sorry, my dog. Um, but I didn't understand it that well myself, and so now I understand it a little bit more after reading this. Because impeachment doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's going to be removed from office. It just means that they're under investigation, basically. But there is a process that and again, so this is why it's kind of a political science class, so that we know when it comes to anyone being going through the process of impeachment, what has to happen in order for it to possibly remove them from their position. Which again, there are numerous positions that you can be, if you're accused of certain things, you can be removed from, not just the presidency. So let's go over the first page of it. So what is impeachment exactly? Impeachment in the United States describes the actual process the legislature undergoes to level charges against a government official, so it could be a lot of people, for allegedly committing crimes. So they believe there's a crime that's been committed, and they think somebody should stand trial for it. Officials more than the president can also be impeached, as we've discussed. In fact, cabinet members, judges, governors, mayors, as well as members of Congress can all be impeached. And if you want, I can send you a link where it shows you like the entire list of people that have been impeached in the past, if you'd like it. As it relates to the president at the federal level, the House of Representatives, and so the House represents both sides, depending on who gets voted in. And again, this is why voting is very important. The House recently has switched over to where it's 50-50. So 50% basically kind of independent and Democratic, and 50% Republican. But since it's 50-50, the person who breaks the tie, if it ever came to a tie between the two, would be the vice president. So that at this point now, soon it will be Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris then would be the deciding vote in the very end. The House of Representatives is the legislative body that initiates and carries out the process of impeachment. When a president is impeached by the House, they remain in office until a trial is held by the Senate. That trial in the Senate and their removal from office, if convicted, is separate from the act of impeachment itself. So you start out, and impeachment really it just comes from the House of Representatives. They say, we think this has happened. If they get enough votes, then what they can do, sorry, let me make sure I'm right. Yeah. Then what they can do is vote to impeach. And that just means that they're holding it over for senators, for the Senate, to decide whether or not this person should be removed from their position. But again, it's different. So, but once they get the votes, then you can be impeached. And, well, I tend to skip ahead, so I won't this time. The notion of impeachment was established by the writers of the American Constitution in order to accuse a sitting president of a crime and provide an apparatus to hold a trial and to determine in a fair way if they are guilty of that crime. Treason and bribery are the two specific crimes that are considered impeachable offenses. So, there are a lot of different offenses that you can get impeached for. But the main two are acts of treason or acts of bribery. And bribery is bribing somebody to help swing a vote a certain way, or, bringing in nations from outside to say, hey, can you help me with this? Or, I need more money and things like that to help me win this election. But, it's very difficult to prove because, we have super PACs and things like that where people donate money all the time. You don't know exactly where the money is coming from because it's anonymous. And a PAC is a political action committee where you can set one up. It's kind of like a GoFundMe account, and it's private. You send in the money, and people just say thank you to the people who did donate. But that's the system that's set up. So it's difficult to actually determine that. Now, treason is a different thing. You really have to commit a treasonous act like Benedict Arnold. But that's a whole other political or history class that we can do later. But those are the two most impeachable. Treason and bribery, that acts of those are the two most important. So that would result in the president being removed from office if they are for a broader. Oh, in addition to the crimes of treason and bribery, the U.S. system of impeachment allows for a broader yet more vague category to accuse the president of a crime. They can be charged and found guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. However, these charges are not clearly defined in the Constitution, which makes impeachment based on high crimes and misdemeanors more difficult. Vagueness, something where it's like, well, what is a high crime? We don't know, and we haven't really defined it yet. Maybe it's something that, our officials should really start looking into. Like, let's start defining what a high crime or misdemeanor are when it comes to being president, or when it comes to being any person in Congress, the House of Representatives, senators. If it's, I think, in a way they don't want to define it, because then it's more possible for them to be impeached. So the steps involved in the impeachment process. So this is specifically how it needs to go to find out if somebody's going to be removed from office. But first, they must be impeached. And so this is how it goes. So it seems that the framers of the Constitution wanted to make it somewhat difficult to get rid of a government official, wanting to give them due process when accused. But everybody deserves due process. Innocent until proven guilty. This makes for a complicated and lengthy process that the average American citizen, sometimes don't understand. So below is a step-by-step process for impeachment. The very first step is initiated by the House of Representatives. A member of the House introduces the resolution. Next, the Speaker of the House directs the U.S. House Committee on the Judiciary or a special committee to hold a special hearing on the resolution. So they'll go to their chamber and they'll talk about exactly why. The hearing is to decide whether to have the full chamber put the measure to a vote and also set a date to hold the vote. Let's see. So I'm not going to get into that. The next part was just about the recent one. So let's just keep going with how it goes. So first, somebody introduces it in the House. The Speaker has to recognize it, and then they set a date for everyone to come together that's part of the House of Representatives to figure if they're going to vote yes or no. So, in order to approve the resolution, they all must have a simple majority in the House vote, which just means the majority of people have to say, yes, we think this is an impeachable offense. Upon the approval of the resolution by the Judiciary Committee, it moves to a full vote on the House floor. Upon voting, if a simple majority of the representatives present and voting approve an article of impeachment, then the representative or the president or anyone who's on trial for it is officially impeached. And say, let's just stick with the president because it's a lot easier to understand, and I don't need to say as much. But after the president has been impeached, the next phase is to hold a trial in the Senate and determine if the president has combined a crime based on the criteria outlined earlier in this article. The Senate leadership determines how the trial is to be conducted. Members of the House, and then the members of the House serve in a Senate trial in a role similar to that of prosecutors in a criminal trial. They are known as managers. The managers present evidence during the procedure, much like a prosecutor would. So, what happens is once you're impeached, and they say, okay, you're president still, but you can't really use your powers to get out of this. So then now the Senate is going to decide if you're still fit to be president and keep running, or keep on as president. And if you're removed from office, you never get a chance to run again. So that's part of, that's why you don't want to be impeached, because you're that close. Because they could decide there's not enough evidence. But it's like a trial for you or I or anybody, where it's like, well, here's the evidence that we have, and should we convict this person of actually, of the crimes that we say they've committed? And if they say, no, there's not enough evidence, or we don't think that's actually what happened, then they stay on as president. So the managers present evidence during the procedure, much like a prosecutor. Where during the Senate trial, the president has counsel to represent him, or them. Apologize. So they would have somebody there, just like a lawyer, basically. Neither side of Congress, the House, or the Senate has complete control over the process. The Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court presides over the actual Senate trial. So this is where the Supreme Court comes in to see if somebody should be removed. Senators considered all of the evidence presented to them, and after closing arguments from both sides, they take time to deliberate, which is just they take time to talk to each other and see what they feel the best course of action is from all the evidence gathered. And say, is this enough for us to remove this person from office and never let them be in this office again? After the deliberation or talking, the senators then reconvene and take a vote on whether the president is guilty or not. The Senate needs a 2/3 vote to convict the president. If they are found guilty, they are promptly removed from office and the vice president is sworn in as president. So, and here's just a little bit more history of impeachment in the United States. Impeachment trials have been held 3 times in the country's history. The first for President Andrew Johnson, then for President Bill Clinton, and now twice for President Donald Trump. Both Johnson and Clinton's trial ended in acquittals, as did Donald Trump's first impeachment trial. So in other words, they were impeached by the House but not convicted or removed from office by the Senate. Johnson was 1 vote away from being convicted of violating the tenure of office of the Office Act when he fired the Secretary of War in 1868. In 1999, Bill Clinton was 22 votes short of being convicted of perjury and obstruction of justice. President Richard Nixon was actually never impeached. He resigned from the presidency on August 9, 1974, before the House could vote on the articles of impeachment. And finally, even though we have outlined the impeachment process in a somewhat simplified way, it is a relatively complicated process. So it provided some lessons and resources for the general public and teachers, and that's from the person who wrote the article. Now, you can actually resign from office, and that's what Nixon did, because he would have been impeached and he probably wouldn't have been removed from office for the Watergate scandal. But instead, he chose to resign and say that I'm not going to be president anymore. And then his vice president, though, who should have taken over his power, was also convicted in some some of the same things. It's different, but some of the same things he was involved in. And so he couldn't. And so I think and then Gerald Ford is the one who actually stepped in to become president and pardoned Richard Nixon and said, he's not going to run anymore, so let's just have it be over and done with. Now, this is Donald Trump's second one, which is he's the only president to have been impeached twice. And it's an interesting part of history, and this is another reason we're having this political science class, is because by the time the Senate has a chance to vote on it, President Biden will already be he'll already be president, not president-elect, but president of the United States. So a lot of people feel, why are we doing this when it's so close? And then some people feel, well, we still need, people still need to answer for things that they've done. And, so they're going to continue with this. But that's where we are right now. So it's interesting. I'm not exactly sure. Because power will already be had. But, we'll find out, and we'll continue with conversations like this as the annals of history go on. But again, like I said, I just want you to know, so at this point, when it comes to impeachment, it's just a process. It doesn't mean that a president's being removed or won't be removed. It just means that that they're under review, basically. So, but again, like he said, it's a lot more complicated than that. Anyway, I miss you all. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. And I hope to talk to you all very soon. All right.